Well, it happened again this week, and one of you was kind enough to reach out and say, hey, loved the lesson last week on the temptations of Christ, but you ought to check out the Brothers Karamazov from Dostoevsky, because there is, Dostoevsky's take on the temptations of Christ is fascinating. And as soon as he said it, I thought, duh! I read the Brothers Karamazov, but it's been too long and I had totally spaced it. And so just brief by way of review for last week and introduction to this week, can I tell you just briefly what Dostoevsky was teaching us in the Brothers Karamazov in a story within the story called The Grand Inquisitor. The Grand Inquisitor is this story, a skeptic is trying to approach one of his other brothers. The skeptical brother is talking to the religious brother, trying to tear down his faith. No wonder I love that book, right, as one who studies faith crisis. But what he tells this story about the Grand Inquisitor, and in it, Jesus comes back to earth, but happens to appear in Spain during the Spanish Inquisition. And as you might expect, he ends up getting arrested. And in prison, he is questioned by the Grand Inquisitor, who eventually tells him, you know what, the church would be better off without you. This is kind of Christendom without Christianity. So please leave, because we've got things under control now, and we can actually do our job a little bit better if we do it our way. Which ends up being a lot like Satan's way, as described in the temptations of Christ. So remember last week when we studied Matthew 4 and some of the others in the other synoptics, that these three temptations were change stones to bread, leap from the temple, and worship me and I'll give you all the kingdoms of the earth. And we talked about that as a temptation toward a physical appetite, lust of the flesh, a temptation toward pride, and a temptation toward worldliness and materialism. And it's all of that, but it's more. And one of the things that the Grand Inquisitor says to Jesus while he's imprisoned is, you should have succumbed to those temptations, because in a way, by doing so, you would have left the people better off, at least in the long run. In fact, that's kind of what we've been doing ever since. And I don't want to try to condemn historical Christianity, whether that's Catholicism or Eastern Orthodoxy, which was Dostoevsky's religion, or Protestantism, or even the cultural aspects of being a Latter-day Saint, because we all have things to repent of and things to work on. We all have temptations to overcome, namely those three types. But what this Grand Inquisitor story explains that is so fascinating and so relevant, tragically, is what the Grand Inquisitor was trying to get across to Jesus was, if you just changed stones to bread, you would have had something to give to the people. I mean, in a way, isn't that what you did when you multiplied the loaves and the fishes? Well, when we get to those stories, I'm going beyond the Grand Inquisitor right now, but when we get to those stories, we'll see why Jesus did it then and why he didn't do it very often. We have the multiplying for the 5,000 and the 4,000, and that's it. And by the time we get to John chapter 6, we'll see why Jesus doesn't keep doing that. But the Grand Inquisitor was, you should do that all the time. Change stones to bread. Bread in circuses is what the Romans would do, right? Let's keep the populace happy. And as long as there's a chicken in every pot, which is what the politicians always promise, then the people will vote for you. The people will follow. So change stones to bread and provide for the people's needs. The second temptation, yes, leap from the temple. And we did hint at this last week. Leap from the temple and the world will know that you're the Messiah. Easy acknowledgement of your true identity. What's better than that? Prove to them, that's the real issue here. Prove to them that you're the Messiah and they will come running. Give them what they want temporally. They'll be beholden to you. They'll keep coming back for more treats. Prove to them that you're the Messiah. And intellectually they'll be beholden to you because they know it's obvious. And then third, accept the rule of the kingdoms of the world. And that way you can rule over your subjects. You'll be the ultimate king of kings in that way. And in that way, you can make sure that they obey your every command. After all, isn't obedience important to you? It's interesting. It's so sinister what Satan is suggesting here. but to think about if you'll give them what they want, if you'll prove to them that this is all true, and if you'll control their decisions in such a way that they can't make wrong ones, then you win. But don't they win too? And in a way, here's what Christendom is trying to do, of give people the easy things, give them proof, and then don't let them choose. Sound a little like Satan's plan in premortality, by the way? No agency, guaranteed salvation, absolute assurance that this is the way because there's no other ways to choose from. Fascinating. That goes even beyond anything that Dostoevsky himself knew at the time. But let's think of it in these terms. If Jesus had gone the way of the Grand Inquisitor, there would have been no want, no doubt, and no sin. And that does sound pretty positive. No want, oh yeah, show me a rock and I'll give you a piece of bread. No doubt, it's absolutely obvious Jesus is the Messiah. The angels came and swooped down and bore him up. And there's no sin, because Jesus can control our every decision. He's ruling every kingdom of the world. Well, that's the problem. God does want to meet our needs, and he does want to help us overcome our doubt, and he does want to eliminate sin, but not Satan's way, not the Grand Inquisitor's way. He wants to do it the Father's way. Because if there's no want, then there's no work. And if there's no doubt, then there's no faith. And if there's no sin, it's because there's no choice, no agency. And the need to work and to wait and to try and to strive is part of the gospel of Jesus Christ. The need to exercise real faith in the face of doubt, in the absence of proof, that's the gospel of Jesus Christ. And to exercise our own agency, even imperfectly at times. That's part of the plan as well, so that we can learn from those mistakes. The day will come where there is no want and no doubt and no sin. But it will be because we have chosen it, not because it's been forced upon us. So take that, Grand Inquisitor. Take that, Satan. Like we said last week, all those things that Satan is offering are things that will come our way in the right way and in the right time if we follow Christ. So thank you, Christ, for resisting those temptations. Thank you, Church of Jesus Christ, for striving to resist those temptations as well. And may we, in our own individual way, resist them and exercise work and exercise faith and exercise agency in such a way that will bless us eternally. And to my friend who reminded me of the brothers Karamazov, thank you for that.